exist due to high enrollment levels. And finally, delays in supplies and poor infrastructure, especially in rural areas, has hindered progression to foundational learning. However, we recognize that there are opportunities to seize that would reflect the progress envisaged by the government and reflected in the policy documents. So the opportunities include Zambia's involvement in the End Learning Poverty for All in Africa campaign, which reflects political will and multi-stakeholder engagement. Secondly, the program like Teaching at the Right Level offers scalable approaches to improve foundational skills if well supported by government policy. And thirdly, non-government organizations and development partners provide technical and material support which can be leveraged into stronger local educational systems. And fourthly, the national inquiry into foundational learning, such as this one, Chairperson, your esteemed committee indeed, can elevate policy responses and accountability. And finally, availability of enhanced constituency development funding in all the 116 districts will provide the resources and reflect the political will of the government in delivering these resources, Chairperson. And we know already that there are substantial resources that have been earmarked and targeted at increasing the number of schools and supporting infrastructure. Chairperson, allow me to end this presentation by delving into recommendations that result from this submission that we make today. To strengthen foundational literacy and numeracy in primary schools, the following should be considered, Chairperson, and this is our plea as a ministry, that there is need to expand ongoing professional development with a strong focus on early grade literacy and numeracy methods and practice of teaching by institutionalizing mentorship and supporting supervision systems at district and school levels. And secondly, we have to ensure timely procurement and equitable distribution of foundational learning materials by prioritizing budget lines for teaching materials in planning. And thirdly, target infrastructure upgrades in rural and disadvantaged areas by leveraging resources such as the CDF, Chairperson, through deploying resources and support proportionate to identified learning needs. And fourthly, Chairperson, we use learning assessment data to inform targeted interventions at school and district levels. In other words, policy must be informed by empirical data because this provides the necessary information for what are the gaps and weaknesses that can be targeted and optimized utilization of resources. And fifthly, Chairperson, we have to track systems for teacher deployment, material distribution, and learning outcomes to help with retention and to minimize the rural-urban gap. And finally, Chairperson, we advocate for increasing education's share in national and local budgets towards the benchmarks and align strategic plans with initiatives such as the End Learning Poverty campaign to unlock additional and financial support. Chairperson, allow me at this point to raise my case as we finally submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your presentation has been the shortest. Thank you very much. I've taken 7 minutes. Very well done. Honorable members, you may now ask questions or seek clarifications. Honorable Mewatu.
Thank you, Chair. On page, okay, though they are not numbered, but the second page, and item 3, the availability and the quality of teaching and learning materials. There's this sentence, the third sentence, which ends with the despite progress in the procurement system. Yes, I think may I need clarification here alluding to the situation that we have observed and like CDF performance, the procurement system. We have had some challenges awarding of contracts to some non-performing contractors, suppliers. So my question is on the progress. What is meant by saying there's progress? Also, under your recommendation, you have hinted on the challenges on this item. We are saying to ensure timely procurement and equitable distribution. So I don't know. I needed some clarification. Thank you.
Any other question, Honorable Mshangu?
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and PS. Thank you very much for your presentation. I want to refer you on item number 5 on challenges and opportunities to achieving literacy and numeracy in primary schools. On the first one, the first challenge, where PS have indicated that there is an existing learning crisis despite increased access because high enrollments has not transmitted into learning gains due to classroom overcrowding. I will not focus so much on the primary, but on the early childhood development education provision, because I'm aware that that, especially when it comes to like infrastructure development, partly apart from Ministry of Education, it is under your ministry. So I would want to learn any practical measures that your ministry has put in place to help in making available or increasing on the inadequate learning spaces for the early childhood development education. And Honorable Chairperson, allow me also outside this just to commend the PS for his quick response. Maybe he may have forgotten. One time I got in touch with a senior government official. There was a hospital that was burning, a very big hospital here in Lusaka. Management got in touch with me that there was that fire outbreak at the hospital. So this senior government did not respond promptly. But when I got in touch with the PS, just an SMS, immediately fire tenders were sent to this hospital. And that's how the fire was quenched and the patients were assisted in this hospital. If it didn't respond swiftly, lives were going to be lost. So I want through you to commend PS for a quick response, for being practical, and also for the leadership that you provided during that crisis. Okay. I submit, Honorable Chairperson.
Another question? Yeah, maybe I can give you the last question as well. Yeah, we do know how bad foundation learning is now. I went to one school in my constituents where at that school there were 1,500 students or pupils right in town. And 700, half the students were in a catch-up. Catch-up, this is where you have those who are really behind. And that was level 1, so there were students from grade 2, 3, 4, 5. So we had a situation where a student can go to school for 5 years, can't even write 4, the number 4, can't read and write. Some as far as grade 6, can't write, can't read, which is really very unfair. 6 years is a long time, 5 years is a long time. So, and then half the school was on catch-up, which means half the school, they were behind. Now, under all this, because the foundation learning is really in a crisis, no doubt, even from your statistics. So what is your ministry doing to help in this situation? Thank you. You can go ahead and answer the questions we provided you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and through you I wish to acknowledge the honorable member here who recognized some of the work that we've done as a ministry, and we are committed as ministry indeed to help where we must. So thank you so much for recognizing the role that we've played as individuals and collectively as a ministry. But Chairperson, in responding to the three issues raised here, one touching on procurement, and then the other two related as well, and actually related even to the first, on the early childhood development and what the practical recommendations are to try and help, which is in relation to indeed what you've indicated. I think what we recognize as a ministry of local government rural development is that a multi-sectoral approach is required, and the coordinating ministry, the Ministry of Education, must play a leading role in mobilizing the different aspects of government, and in particular, they can mobilize the Ministry of Local Government Rural Development to try and help in the provision of conducive learning environment. But in terms of the specific role that our ministry plays, Chairperson, our ministry plays the role of supervising the devolution program. And right now we have the Zambia Devolution Support Program that is hosted at our ministry and coordinated by the PMU, which essentially is the implementing unit constituted of various individuals from different ministries, which essentially is a consortium of different aspects of government responsibilities. Now, through that scheme, Chairperson, we anticipate that we can identify where the gaps are and therefore identify which responsible ministry will have to support a particular endeavor of ensuring that we have enhanced early childhood education. So, for example, you find that early childhood education may be hampered by a lack of sanitary services or a lack of water, reticulated water at household level, which diminishes the capacity and responsibility of the household to play a role in helping early childhood education. So there is an interplay between the role of households and the role of established institutions such as learning institutions. So Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation is now being called upon to try and help at least in ensuring that households have clean, safe drinking water to avoid disease spread, but also to ensure that we promote household health. But we also recognize through the devolution aspects that the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development itself has a role to play through a Constituency Development Fund to ensure that resources are targeted towards certain endeavors. But Chairperson, as a ministry, we can only spell out that resources are available. And as you know, Chairperson, the resources are the responsibility of the themselves how they want to spend those resources. So in other words, there are competing needs. So there is a competition between the various needs and wants of the different communities. But by placing a premium through lobbying and accountability and sending messages about the crisis in early childhood education, then we can influence the way in which decisions are made insofar as resource allocation is concerned. So what are the practical recommendations that we are making to help with early childhood development? We are saying that lobbying must start at the level of the communities, highlighting the depth of the challenge, the depth of the problem. Because if at age 5, people are still, our children are illiterate and they cannot read even a sentence, and cannot grasp even the basic alphabet, then we have a crisis in future leadership. So we need to learn to be channeled towards ensuring that early childhood education, we place a premium on early childhood education in terms of infrastructure, in terms of material provision, and also in terms of teaching that will be awarded by teachers. But I also want to highlight something here on timely procurement and distribution and the awarding of contracts to non-performing contracts. Chairperson, we've seen some progress in training that has been taking place through the Zambia Public Procurement Authority, through the Ministry of Local Government Development, and with partners such as Alliance Procurement, where we have heightened capacity building to help with gaps that we see, Chairperson, in procurement processes themselves. Now, on the issue of awarding contracts to non-performing contractors, I think the rules are very, very clear there, Chairperson, in terms of what the sub-warrant holders or in other words, the controlling officers at the level of local authorities must do to ensure that public resources are used efficiently and effectively. And for ourselves as a ministry, where we see that there are gaps, we're actually making recommendations to Local Government Service Commission to institute disciplinary action against officers that are found wanting. In other words, officers that award contracts to non-performing contractors. Because what this does is that not only does it imply underutilization of resources, it also brings about issues related to non-provision of quality services when they are required for our learners. I'd like to request whether maybe any one of my colleagues here has something to add, Chairperson, through you, then they are free to just come in to support my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Maybe just one small addition to what the PS has already highlighted. He did mention that the issue of early child education needs a multi-sectoral approach, working with a number of stakeholders, one of them being UNICEF. For now, we are working in Northwestern Province, the construction of early childhood centers in those two provinces. So depending on how that program performs, there's a possibility that it might be scaled up to the rest of the country. So for now, it is just restricted to Eastern and Northwestern Province. I thought that I needed to add that little aspect on the need that we also bring on board other cooperating partners to support the early childhood learning in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a comment on the designs. I think you need to help the Ministry of Education. When you look at the designs we use now, even for a classroom, they are pathetic, really. I don't know who designed them. In this era, we can make better designs. Even for foundation, now they make where there are holes, like, you know, sometimes goats even go there to play in the villages. In the evening, I mean, when it's cold like now, kids can't sit in those rendezvous, which they do. I think we need better design. We need to invest in the design itself so that we come up, because what comes up is what you plan to produce. So our designs are a bit terrible. So from your ministry, you could help in the design, really, of the foundation learning classroom blocks. Make suggestions that can help. So otherwise, I would like to thank you for coming and for your contribution. Now that we have come to an end, I now remove Cap 12. Thank you very much for coming.
Good morning, and we have just been listening to the submissions to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and they were making submissions to the Committee on Education, Science and Technology, who are reviewing the state of the fundamental literacy and levels in primary schools. So those were the first witnesses for today, and later on we expect the Ministry of Education to make an appearance and make submissions to this committee, who are considering the reviewing of the state of foundational literacy and numeracy levels in primary schools. So keep watching Parliament Television as we continue bringing Parliament closer to you.